Hello, good morning, and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. Here we are at 5:41 a.m. Central Daylight Time, October 10th, 2019. It's very warm and humid here. I have the windows open. It's humid. It may get to 90 today here in October. Even a little unusual for Louisiana. We do have a cold front coming, or if you want to really call it more accurately, a cool front. Here is Black Velvet, imported Black Velvet Canadian blended whiskey. The second best-selling Canadian blended whiskey behind Crown Royal, of course, Crown Royal #1. Aged 3 years, the minimum. It's in a unique bottle with big shoulder, a narrow tapering cylinder, and then the bulge at the bottom. Clear glass. It was acquired by, this is a brand that's been passed around over the years. The most recent owner, the current owner, is Heaven Hill, who acquired Black Velvet in August of 2019. Okay, so they have it now. These brands traded around so much. All right, so since 1951. The competitor, Lord Calvert, also aged 3 years. Lord Calvert, Canadian. The company says 1964. I have evidence showing that it's long before that, but 1964 for the U.S. market. Let's say that. Here's the Beam Company bottle. This is from the Beam Company days. Got that ridge top, Kessler style. If you ever see 750 milliliter bottles of Kessler American blended whiskey, it's the same bottle design, glass. Now, when Luxco bought it from Beam in 2015, they went to the smooth cylindrical bottle. Then in 2017, they went to the squared off, heavily embossed 1960s style bottle. So if you look on the Lord Calvert, and I put links below, if you look on the Lord Calvert website now, they show the old bottle, which is now the current bottle. And then they have Lord Calvert Black, which I did see and didn't buy, and I was very foolish. I would like to try the Lord Calvert Black, sort of like the more premium one, just like there's Black Velvet Reserve, the 8-year age. Michael Jennings, I have not had Black in years, never heard of the Lord Calvert. See what I mean? They got so many Canadian whiskey brands that the people in Canada don't get. It's like German beer. We say, oh, all these German beers, and the Germans tell me, I never heard of that stuff. Get a lot of export-only items. So let's get started. Has Lord Calvert's recipe changed? I have no evidence to that, but I think that sometimes the recipes for these products do change, do get adjusted. Well, you know they do if they're going with an age statement to no age statement. That doesn't mean the ingredients change, just the recipe, you know, the formula, it's different aging, whatnot. But I think Black Velvet's saying on the website, we use a lineup that is based on the original. Okay, Jack Napier product. Before we get into the taste challenge, let's look at what it says. Here's Heaven Hill. What is Black Velvet in whiskey? The history. That's not exactly the definitive history, but it should say a history. Let's look at the history and origin. This humidity, your nose. If everybody in Louisiana has sinus problem. All right. But I'm in better shape than most. Behind the newly acquired brand. Black Velvet, I'm just summarizing. Black Velvet developed 1946, first introduced 1951. And then they go all about these English brothers who went to, that's the whole history of Gilby Distillery in Toronto, Canada. Jack Napier, who developed Crosby, Hicks, and John S. Jack Napier developed several different Canadian whiskeys, such as Old Gold, Special Old, Very Best, Red Velvet, Gold Velvet, Royal Velvet, and Black Velvet. While the 10-year-old Royal Velvet was expected to be a top-selling product, Black Velvet became the company's leading product. And I never heard any of those other ones. They were going to call it Black Label, but then they decided that was too risky with the Johnny Walker Black Label Scotch, so they just decided Black Velvet, plus they said it was smooth, and blah, blah. And it goes on about how Diageo got started, and in 1973, they built the Palliser Distillery in Lethbridge, Alberta, on the banks of the Oldman River. 1999, Diageo sold Black Velvet to Canandaigua Brands, Canandaigua Wine Company, Taylor Wine Company, now Constellation. And in 2009, Constellation shifted focus to mid-premium brands and moved its whiskey production to the Palliser Distillery, which was renamed the Black Velvet Distilling Company. So Palliser. Okay, I'm not trying to bore you with this, but I think it's interesting. I think these things are interesting. The product has stood the test of time. And then they give you some tasting notes from a book about whiskey. Talk about how they used to market it with country music singers and models like Sybil Shepherd, actress model Cheryl Tiegs, same thing. Okay, so here's making Black Velvet. Let me look back at my. Hello, everybody, says Emio is your. Hello to you. I'm not going to go on too long with this, but Black Velvet Company features an automated operation system from grain to final product requiring just 2 employees per shift. So do you want to drink a whiskey that is almost totally automated, computer and machine made? This is one for you. 2 employees per shift. The distillery features 4 shifts. 4 shifts per day. All right. 8 times 4 is 24. And a total of 60 employees, 15 of which are responsible for testing product to ensure it's consistent and up to standard. So you got 45 in production, 15 in testing, and they are in the laboratory, you know. The Black Velvet recipe is a majority corn mash bill inspired by Hicks and Napier's original recipe. You see what I'm saying? It's not the same. They say inspired by the original. Oh. The distillery uses approximately 1,500 tons of corn each year. They begin by adding the mash to continuous jet cookers in a rotation of 11 fermenters. During this process, we'll use a Canadian pronunciation, dry yeast is added and the mash goes from 8% to 13 or 14% alcohol. The product is then transported to a 4-column continuous still consisting of a beer column, extractive distillation column, a fusel column. Now it's getting into like a science project, right? And rectifying column and several copper condensers. Once the base whiskey is produced, that's your grain spirits, a process called blending at birth takes place in which the base whiskey is blended with a rye flavoring whiskey. They call that rye high wine that has been aged for 2 to 6 years. And that's very high proof. Once blended, the product is stored in used bourbon barrels at 77% alcohol. 77% alcohol for a minimum of 3 years. The barrels are then placed in one of 3 Black Velvet Distilling Company warehouses among approximately 340,000 other barrels. 340,000 barrels. Once the product is ready, it's bottled in Lethbridge or sent to Kentucky or California to be bottled and prepared for distribution. So you might be drinking one that's bottled in Alberta or in California or in Kentucky at Heaven Hill. Okay. Now this one says bottled Canandaigua, New York. Yeah, well, of course, that's when they had it. Canandaigua Wine Company on Constellation Brands. Okay, so and then they go on the Black Velvet website about the same thing. So we won't go into all that. And then Lord Calvert doesn't say much. It's just simple, crisp, and surprisingly smooth. In other words, it's simple. It's a basic whiskey. It's crisp. It's surprisingly smooth. What do you mean surprising? In other words, it's so cheap you can't believe it's smooth. That's these companies use very careful language, and if you can interpret it, you can figure out what they're saying. You see. So on with this, but that's so interesting to read how they make it. So the Black Velvet is blended, then aged. Most Canadian whiskey, almost all the other Canadian whiskeys are aged, then blended, then bottled. See, aged, the components are aged, then blended, and immediately bottled. Okay. Oh, well. They said, well, when you let it age together, it's like gumbo. You know, it marries. That's why people always say a bowl of gumbo tastes better 2 days after it's been setting in the refrigerator than when it's fresh, because it cures all the onions and the spices and the okra and the chicken andouille or whatever you got, shrimp. It's all mixing or marinating, I guess you'd say, in the refrigerator. That's why Church's fried chicken tastes better after 2 days. Like, you get it fresh, it's good, hot, but it can taste the grease a little bit, the oil, and it's just kind of it's good. But if you take it and I can only eat so much, it makes me sick. You put it in the refrigerator, seal it up, let it set for 2 days. Then you take it out, heat it up, not in the microwave. Don't ever make that mistake. The toaster oven or regular oven, but I don't know why you would want to heat up a huge oven just for some chicken. But you put it in there on for like 20 minutes, and it'll slowly, get infused, the heat center to outside without burning. The chicken will be so much better because then the meat absorbs the juices from the skin and the batter, you see, and you say, oh, this is the real church. Right. But I mean, at a restaurant, there's no way they could do that, let it set for 2 days and marinate. The Black Velvet is good, neat, but also enjoyable on ice. The latter kind of smoothing it out, in my opinion. Yeah, I think you're right, probably, but I almost certainly you're right. But I always do these taste challenges neat because I want to get the full experience. Now, got these snifter glasses, little Diamore glass, which was given to me. Thank you. Diamore didn't give them to me. Somebody did. But he was like, don't tell anybody. I was like, okay. Nice alcohol legs. They're both golden. Same shade, gold and gold. These are very similar. This is going to be a challenge because we're talking about 3 years versus 3 years, blended versus blended. Now, is the Calvert blended at Burt? No, it's like the traditional. They age the components, then blend and bottle. Okay, if you go to Jack Daniel's distillery, they say, we don't blend our bourbon. You don't? No, we mingle it. Oh, okay. Oh, man. You say, what do you mean blend? I thought Jack Daniel's was straight bourbon whiskey. I mean, Tennessee whiskey, that's what it is. Tennessee whiskey is straight bourbon whiskey, which is put through that Lincoln County process. They drip it through the 10-foot charcoal column, and then they age it, which is totally irrelevant to bourbon production, by the way. That doesn't make it not a bourbon. All right. I've gotten to this argument with people. They never win because they're wrong. You can't win an argument if you're wrong, but I mean, they get angry. But, and that's what I was talking about the other day about people I couldn't think of the word. Like, it's hard to talk to people on the internet about beer, wine, and liquor and I kept thinking, what's the word? And I thought of it, volatile. People that are volatile. You know what I mean? Just flip out over what I would call trivial subjects, trivial things. And I run across this on Facebook volatile people. You go on to talk to them and it's like, this message cannot be sent because you've been blocked by them. But that's okay because it's on the internet. But imagine having to live with the person and they could fly off the handle over, like I say, the most trivial matters. It may be something like where we're going to go eat for supper, something that's not that important. But you know what I'm talking about? Some of you people are married to volatile people, or some of you viewers are volatile people. And you're saying, how dare you accuse me of getting angry fast? I hurt you. I'm glad you're not volatile. All right. So anyway, do some more mixing here, mingling. But yeah, so, but these are not bourbon, but in a sense, they are not that different from bourbon. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. It can't be bourbon because it's Canadian. Okay, so there you go. Bourbon has to come from the United States of America. That's a legal thing. It's like Scotch comes from Scotland. You can't drink Scotch from Hawaii. Although you could make a whiskey in Hawaii that would taste identical to Scotch. You just couldn't call it Scotch. You'd have to call it Hawaiian blended whiskey. Or in Japan, Tokai, right? Suntory Tokai. When you taste that, you say, well, this is Scotch. Oh, no, you can't call it that. It's Japanese blended whiskey. Okay. All right. And rice whiskey, too. But you say, well, bourbon's got to be 51% corn. 51% corn at least. Well, these Canadian whiskeys are all 51. That's their base. And it's probably much higher than 51. More like 80. You say, well, they use grain spirits. Yeah, what do you think grain spirits are made out of? Corn in America. In Japan, they use rice. Okay, not that difficult. It's corn. You distill it. Now it's a spirit. It could be 100 proof, 196, 190 proof. They're gonna water it down to 80. Generally, it could be 90. They're gonna dilute it. What you're starting is just the base. Well, that's what you got when you're making bourbon. Moonshine, clear, colorless, odorless. Then you start aging it in barrels. Now you got the whiskey. But in Canada, they're aging it in used barrels. In Kentucky, in Tennessee, they're using new barrels, never before used, with the heavy char. Could be very heavy char, could be alligator char, could be a thin layer of char, could be different charcoal components. All that can vary. Has to be oak, though. Must be oak barrels for bourbon. So you could make a bourbon in Canada. Can't add flavoring. Now, these Canadian whiskeys, they'll add rum, they'll add brandy, they'll add certain wine like sherry, and even bourbon itself to give it the unique flavors, and rye. Now, but you can add rye to bourbon. You can add wheat, barley, all of that. Doesn't matter. But you can't add the so-called flavorings. Now, you might say, well, isn't rye a flavoring? Yeah, it's got a unique flavor. So you could almost make that argument. Can't have coloring added, though. Bourbon cannot have coloring. But you could make the same thing in Canada, just can't call it bourbon. All right, on with the show. But those are really fascinating topics to discuss, and even more fascinating than the actual taste challenge, I think. Not to disparage the taste challenge since I'm doing it. It's like cognac. Otherwise, it's brandy. Exactly. 100% right. Maxwell, good morning, Ron. Good morning to you, Maxwell. In the Russian Federation. All cognac is brandy, but all brandy is not cognac. All bourbon is whiskey, but all whiskey is not bourbon. I have actually talked to bourbon fans who love bourbon, have a house full of bottles, but they don't really know what it is. They don't need to know what it is. As long as they enjoy it, that's what counts. But I've had bourbon fans tell me, I like bourbon, I don't like whiskey. I'm like, what? What they mean, I think what they mean is they don't like other styles of whiskey. But I think some of them actually believe, yeah, I know, because I've had them tell me this. Oh, well, bourbon's not whiskey. I'm like, what? What are you saying? But people don't like to be corrected. I like to be corrected, because I used to teach high school and college, and, you want to get it right. So You want it right. And I've had students tell me, no, you meant Spain, Spain. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll say, oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what I was saying. I don't know why I said England. You'll misspeak. Or sometimes it could be actually wrong, which is not common, but I've been wrong. All right. This is pungent. It's got a lot of corn, heavy corn. Think of Quaker corn, Quaker grits. Now, that's white corn. This is usually yellow. Doesn't have to be. You can make bourbon out of white corn, doesn't matter. But has to be maize, corn maize, right? But go to the store, buy Quaker grits. Get it wet, and remember, it has salt, but get it wet, and where it starts to become like the soft cereal paste kind of like thing, and smell it, and you're going to say, oh, well, that smells like black velvet. That's right, except it's not distilled. It hasn't formed alcohol, you see. So yes, you could take grits and make whiskey, but you couldn't have the grits with the salt. You say, yeah, I'm making Goza whiskey. Goza. Oh, yeah, okay. It's just basic. It's like corn. You say, what about wood? What about char? Yes, some wood. No char. Yes, rye. There's a little rye spice. I need some sour and some Creole mustard and some corned beef. And then I got it, right? And some potato chips and kosher pickles. And I got it. Oh, lots of corn here. With some flavoring, I think. Now, is Lord Calvert in the top 20 selling Canadian whiskeys? No, I don't think so. It's a very low profile product. I haven't even seen it around here. I saw it at that one store, Budget Saver, Labourie's Budget Saver on US Highway 90 business route in Marrero. It was obviously one bottle that they just never sold until I came along. I've never seen it any other place in Louisiana. Saw it in Georgia, and lots of bottles. But that's Georgia. We're not in Georgia here. Black Velvet? Oh, sure. You'll see it around. Not at Mathern's. Not at Walmart here. But then, Winn-Dixie will have it, other stores. So it's pretty common. Dornax has it. It's hit or miss, but maybe 60% hit and 40% miss. Of course, Crown Royal is 100% hit. It's the #1 selling whiskey in Louisiana. Go to any liquor store in Louisiana, there's going to be Crown Royal. Well, I'm pretty sure you go to any liquor store in America, North America, Canada, United States, Mexico, probably going to be Crown Royal. Okay, you know that. It's going to be Seagram 7 Crown. Going to be Jack Daniels. It's going to be Jim Beam. Going to be Johnny Walker. Red Label. Everybody's going to have that. Tanqueray Gin. You know it's going to always be there. I think I'm picking up more flavoring on the nose. That honeycomb cereal I talked about? Which is making me think Lord Calvert. But I don't know. Let's go with the taste. I've never done Black Velvet versus Lord Calvert. So they could bring out things with, sound like fire engine. Could bring out things in them that you wouldn't expect. It's rush hour, could be a wreck, it almost certainly is. You got these people rushing to get to work, and they living on their phones. You say, I got a smartphone and I'll look at it while I'm driving. I believe that. If you told me that, I would certainly believe it. Now, if you told me you didn't look at it while you were driving, I think you might be lying, I don't know. This one has some flavoring too, but a little more spice. And I thought the Black Velvet had more rye spice. So let's go with the taste. I think this is Black Velvet, which I didn't really like that much. They talk about how good it is. To me, it had kind of a bad bite. It was kind of harsh, from what I was seeing. I was saying it's smooth like sandpaper. Yeah, this is kind of smooth. It's boozy. You say, well, it's 80 proof. I know, right? Strange how liquor will taste like liquor, isn't it? You You see, though, over here in my right hand could be to your left, but, you know, it gets reversed, whatever. This tastes more stark. Stark. And Black Velvet has a very stark taste. It's like just sort of no frills basic. It's like grain, alcohol, whiskey. If you don't like it, then don't buy it. Now get lost. That's the way that's the approach, you know. We're the #2 whiskey in the world. We don't need your business. Get lost. Roll out. Get out of here. We don't even advertise and we #2. That's pretty remarkable. They do no advertising. You might see a poster in a store. This month only, Black Velvet, whatever. Okay, but television commercials, radio, no way. No way. And it's still #2. And it's $9.99 a bottle. $9.99. Heck, the Lord Calvert $10.99. And you can sometimes they sell Black Velvet in those plastic bottles, plastic or glass. Jack Daniels, plastic or glass. Or is it Jack? Yeah. And Jim Beam. Now they got the Jim Beam 750s in glass. The Evan Williams. Everything's, I mean, in plastic. Everything's going to plastic. Plastic. That's what Andy Warhol said. Everybody was complaining about the 1970s and whatever. He said, I love the 1970s because everything's plastic and I love plastic. You know. Like the whole country was like Tupperware, you know, he liked that. All right. But he was different, to say the least. Okay, I know the answer. This is the Lord Calvert because it's got that sweet honeycomb. It's not stark. It's got flowers, nectar, honeycomb, honeysuckle, nectar, those things. Think along those lines and you got it. You know the taste. You like honeysuckle, honeycomb, flowers, nectar. I was going to say sugary syrup. It isn't that, but it's sweet, but natural sweet, not artificial sweetener taste. This one over here. No, it is not sweet. And it is very grain alcohol-y. You would think after 3 years mingling, merging, melanging, marrying in the barrel that these flavors would come together right now over me like the Beatles, but they don't really. I don't see it. Like it's like there's a very pronounced grain alcohol flavor. You say, well, go buy a moonshine. Yeah, right, exactly. So it's, and I've tasted the grain spirits, uncut. Oh, that'll floor you. That's too much. I don't know how somebody could drink it, but it tastes like that. It's like grain whiskey, whatever you want to call it. Grain alcohol, grain whiskey, moonshine, grain neutral spirit. It's all the same thing. If you read the conception behind it, it is. I would never buy it again. I bought this bottle for experimental and reviewing purposes. It doesn't have all flavors are unpleasant, but well, it is kind of unpleasant. But you know what I'm saying? It's just like toothpick wood and grain alcohol. Now, if that's your jam, if that's what, because people like to say that. I hear people saying that. That's my jam. Okay. I would say something like, if that's your thing, then you should go buy thing because you would like it. But I don't see any. It's just dull. Dull, bland, boring, and unexciting. Not bad. I never said it was bad. But I don't think it's really good. If I scored it now, I'd give it a, if I scored it now, I'm not scoring it now. If I was reviewing it right now. If I was reviewing it right now, I'd give it a 80. 80 out of 100, B minus. barely good, and I wouldn't buy it again. But luckily, I'm not reviewing it right now. But I'll say if I was, and I probably never will again. All right, so this one here, I've already reviewed it, you know. If I was reviewing it, which I'm not, but let's just say for the sake of argument, I was reviewing it live on the air right now. Oh, I guess it's probably a 90. See, that's a 10-point difference. It's like getting into excellent. Has a nice, I just love that honeycomb and that nectar flavor. There's a little wood, no char really, but it's got a lot of character now. Is it that different from the Canadian Limited, the Rich and Rare, the Calvert, all those Sazerac flavored Canadian whiskeys? It is a little different because those start to even have a licorice note. No, they can't add licorice, so don't even entertain it. But there's something that tastes like black licorice in those, and they have more of a rye spice. You know what? That's Sazerac, right? Whoever loved the rye whiskey more than Sazerac company? I don't know of any. They go cuckoo. They're like cuckoo for rye. But to me, this is way better. Costs $1 more per bottle, but that could just be a circumstance. It might be $9.99 where you live all day long every day. But I'm going to say Lord Calvert is the clear winner by 10 percentage points. It's blowing Black Velvet off the map. You know what I'm saying? Off the TV screen. You know what I mean? Like a TV screen. So sorry, Black Velvet, you lose again. Black Velvet just keeps losing and losing and losing. And Lord Calvert just keeps winning or tying. You know, not the champs, but they're competitive. They're in the game. All right, so this better say LC after all this talking. It does say LC. I did it. Lord Calvert, yeah. Which makes me even angrier at myself for not buying the Lord Calvert Black. And I've preached the sermon and I don't live by it. Would that make me a hypocrite? I'm always telling people, if you see it and you have any question, buy it, because you think you're going to see it again and you're not. You're not. And that's what happened with Lord Calvert. When I saw that Lord Calvert Black, it was $11.99. I mean, what was, did I have like a spell of idiocy? And I was like, no, I'm not gonna get it. I'll get it on the way back. And then I didn't feel like getting off the interstate and going through that town and buying it. Just like total mistakes the whole way. And I got home and I said, oh, you dumb. You should have bought it, man. If the Lord Calvert is this good, imagine how good the Lord Calvert Black would be. I mean, it's a more premier item. Yeah, it's going to cost more because it's better. Oh, well, I'll never live it down. You know what I mean? I just won't. Anyway, no crying over spilled milk, but I am going to keep crying over it. You know, I always harp on these things because I did it. You know, like I did it to myself. I'm like, why didn't I buy it? Why didn't I buy those Schlitz Red Label cans in 1996? The last year of the Red Label. You know why? Because I thought I'd see it the week after. I said, I'll get it next week after I get paid. Oh, yeah, I got paid. Next week, it's gone. Replaced with the Burgundy label, which they've had ever since. And I didn't get it. And I was frantic, looking all over New Orleans. Never saw it again, and it's gone. So, see, that's a lesson that maybe I should live by. I'm preaching it. Maybe I should live it. Thanks for watching this video production. Tomorrow night, this will be exciting. Tomorrow night on Fandango Friday, which is any drink, James P. Madonna's bringing one of those little bottles of something, tequila maybe, I don't know. They could bring beer. I said they could bring iced tea if they wanted. Or they could bring a Wendy's Frosty if they want. But I'm going to do a rum taste challenge live during the thing. I'm going to do Calvert rum, which is sweet like rock candy, the craziest rum I ever tasted, versus Ron Rio, which smells like rancid sugar, cane stalks, and Monsanto's Roundup. Now, does that sound like something you'd want to put in your body? It doesn't to me, but I've been doing it anyway. Thanks for watching this video production.